or Bhai is Dr Gurtej Singh. They've come all the way from California along with their exhibition to do a talk for us today. And if you look around the room, you see the exhibition that them and their team have created over the years, which is very informative. So if you get a chance after, please go and read, and I'll pass it on to Dr Gurtej Singh. Why would you go first?
ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀਓ, ਗੱਜ ਕੇ ਬੁਲਾਓ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Whenever we speak about our Shaheeds, it's a huge responsibility to do justice to their character. One needs to be well grounded. We can talk as much as we want about these Shaheeds, but the point is, how do we get the essence of their character to come within us? So I'm going to make an effort to share with you some elements of Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra. His personality, his life, his challenges, his journey from a common man to join the top levels of those we respect so dearly, the Shaheeds. So before I do that, let's for a moment or two bring our awareness, our consciousness together, try to connect to the realm where the Shaheeds exist. Let's recite a Mool Mantra and Panj Gur Mantra, and then we would start. Ik oankar satnam karta purkh nirbhau nirvair akal murat ajuni saibang prasad jap ad sach jugad sach hai bhi sach nanak hosi bhi sach vaheguru 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 ji ka khalsa vaheguru ji ki fateh. So what I was asked to speak about primarily today was the deeper meanings of Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra's last speech. I'll share a few clips of that speech. But I think in order to understand Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra and his life, we need to go into the background, the challenges that he had to deal with. Only then we would be able to understand where those words were coming from. Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra's last speech, they say, is the one which was responsible for his Shaheedi, for his arrest, for his elimination, because the state was so scared of him. His words were so dense, they were so heavy, that people were not able to process the power of such. And what Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra prefers to call KPS Gill as Julam da in charge on his face, literally, decided to get rid of him. Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra was only 43 when he became Shaheed. Back then, the circumstances, the situation in Punjab, I don't think people who have not lived in that decade will ever be able to grasp the intensity of the bloodshed, the pain, the suffering that the Qawm had to deal with. And for most of those people who lost their lives, they weren't even aware why they were killed. Some of them were just picked up because they had a kesari dastar on, just because they had a gatra kirpan on, or just because the police chief in that area, they called him the SHO, the station house officer of that police station, had to fulfill a number of those eliminated, his quota. Just like Donald Trump's ICE has to fulfill these quotas on a daily basis to ship out the undocumented immigrants in the US. And the other thing which I think today's generation will not understand, how did this term encounters come about? Because from our perception, the term encounter is so benign. I mean, you just meet someone and it's an encounter. And how is it used in this context when somebody is picked up? Most of the times, 99.9% of the times, without any warrants, extrajudicially, kept in a police station, sometimes shipped to different places which on paper don't even exist as interrogation centers, tortured to extract information, or in most cases, to break their will, break the person's will, and then turn them into informers. Because without the informers, the police couldn't get its job done. So, newspapers would carry these reports that this and these many people, quote unquote terrorists, were killed in an encounter. And for me, it was, in the beginning, a very, it was tough for me to process that term, how could one get killed in an encounter? Until we had close friends who got eliminated, who got picked up, got tortured, and then they were killed. But most of the times, these encounters were fake. And this brought us to another challenge. How could an encounter be faked? And this is common knowledge now, thanks to Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra and his team and a lot of other people who had enough courage to come up and speak about this high-handedness, this degree of atrocities that were committed and were brought to the attention of the people around the world, that we can now understand how can an encounter be faked or staged or banoti, jalli, jhootha. ताई करके the Punjabi term was a little more realistic. They made it jhoothe police muqabale. Jhoothe police muqabale. this is the reason why, I realize that in the West, the way we are brought up, our command on this English language isn't that great, so we focus more. We can't focus on these Punjabi terms, but so be it. So what happened after these encounters which were faked or staged? These gunfights which never happened, but were reported as being gunfights. We went to arrest this guy, or this guy was going on a bicycle, or he was coming on a tractor, and we asked him to stop, and he didn't stop. He opened gunfire on us, and we shot back, and then he was killed in that encounter. That was the most common story. And then these bodies were then thrown away in the fields, and some of them were then taken to cremation grounds and burned, cremated as unidentified. This is the Durgiana temple cremation ground. This is where not the most, but a significant number of these victims of faked encounters were cremated. Even though the police knew who these young Sikhs were, which village they belonged to, who was their father, what was their name, where were they picked up from, which police officer was responsible for their elimination. They knew all the details, but they preferred to bring those bodies and burn them as unidentified, and as if they had no worth. They were like gajar muliyan. That was one way these victims of staged encounters, how they were eliminated. The other one was their bodies were dumped into the network of canals which runs through Punjab. Till the late 90s, I remember the news where these headworks at the borders of Punjab and Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana, they would pick up countless number of bodies. And nobody would know where these bodies are coming from. Sometimes these were just merely body parts. And so when somebody says that, when we look at especially that section of the exhibit there, the true face of Indian democracy, the staged encounters, when we say that more than 100,000, even up to 250,000 Sikhs lost their lives, it is not an unrealistic number. It's quite likely that that many number of Sikhs were killed, even though Khalraji's work by Insaf later on was not able to track as many folks. We were not able to come up with a good count of people who were missing. There are a few reasons for that. One is, especially this project by Insaf was undertaken in 2012, almost a decade and a half after these disappearances had already started to wane down. And most people, the elders in the village, they were so scared, they had moved from village to some other place. Some of them had moved abroad, some of them died, some of them were just scared to speak up. So I don't think that when Insaf did this project, they were able to get a hold of. But yes, they were able to identify how scattered and uniform these disappearances were throughout Punjab, even though most of them were in the two districts of Amritsar and Gurdaspur. And this is something which Jaswant Singh Khalra was able to bring to light. And as you will hear from Jaswant Singh Khalra's mouth himself, these mothers, they just wanted to know where their loved ones are. Or all they were looking for is a death certificate. They just wanted to know, can we conduct their last rites? ਭੋਗ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ? ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੱਚਾ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈ. So Jaswant Singh Khalra's work is very important from this perspective. Now again, from an academic perspective, this sounds very bland. Yeah, there was a guy who went out to the field, he found out so many people were killed, he got a count, and then he brought it out in front of the world. But then we need to understand, we need to realize that he was a human being like us, number one. Number two, he was a family man like most of us. He had a 9-to-5 job, he had little kids to take care of. He was a family man. Where we need to bring ourselves in comparison to Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra is, and this challenge is still out open, in the open right now. What made him do what he did? And what is stopping us from having the courage, the will to speak up against the tyranny? Why have we become so distant from reality? Why do our smartphones engage us more than the pain and suffering which exists in the Panth today? I was talking to a bunch of visitors earlier today, and from their appearance, it was very apparent that they were all fresh immigrants from Punjab. And their body language, their nodding, trying to speak in English, but then they being more engaging when I chose to speak in Punjabi. And I asked them, why is it that we don't think about these people? Why aren't they a priority in our day-to-day thinking? And I think they didn't have an answer to that. And when I suggested that are our daily chores more important than the Panth, and they said yes. For most of us, our daily chores, they are never ending, and that takes priority above all of this. And the reason why it takes priority over everything else, our daily chores, our personal lives, number one, because lack of trust amongst each other, with each other. We don't trust people around us because we don't know how are they going to react to this. Number one. Number two, because so much time has gone by, these images, this information has kind of disappeared, faded from our collective consciousness. Sadi jehdi chetna hai, sada subconscious mind hai, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਪਿਆ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਾਣ ਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਖੋਲ੍ਹਦੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੇਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੀਲ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਇਨਫ ਕਰੇਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਡੀਲ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ. ਪਰ ਸਰਦਾਰ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ was in the thick of it. He didn't have a plan B. So, as the story goes, Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra, as you might all know, was working in a bank, and one of his fellow employees, his close friend, Sardar Pyara Singh, from village Sultanwind on the outskirts of Amritsar, was picked up by the police. And soon afterwards, his another friend was picked up from village Mattewal. And Sardar Khalra said, well, what could possibly have happened to them? And he, with his other friend, Jaspal Singh, started looking for Sardar Pyara Singh and Amrik Singh. And that's when they ended up coming to these I don't know why it has decided not to respond. Yeah. To these three cremation grounds. One in Amritsar, the other one in Tarantar, and the third one in Patti. And obviously they were smart. They knew how to trick the authorities. They sent their own colleague to Durgyana Temple cremation ground, and he went in and looked for the officials there and told them that a few government officers were coming to check the records of the cremation ground. Do you have them all handy or you don't? And they said, no, we have them handy. So he said, I just wanted to warn you, when these officers come, you better have them all set up so that they can check and then they can leave, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So when Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra and his friend Jaspal Singh arrived, all the records were already there. They were laid down in front of them, and when they started to go through them, there were lists of all these people who had been cremated over the past few months in the Durgyana Temple cremation grounds as unidentified. And how these bodies who were actually labeled unidentified had a name, had a village, had a father's name, had the police officer's name who brought these bodies. These officials in the cremation grounds, because they thought that these really were officers, they said, well, we would like to treat you with some tea and pakode and samosa. So they left the premises with all the records with Sardar Jaswant Singh and his friend, and they went out. And in that little time that they had, they took these registers to the photocopy shop close by and made photocopies of all the records. You have heard of the Schindler's List, right? The Schindler's List. This was the Khalra's list. This was the Khalra's list. And they said the initial investigations, they said 2,097 people were figured out. Total was, in Khalra's speech, he says 6,017. And then apart from these, we shouldn't just get stuck with this number, because this was a very small segment, a small proportion of people who were killed. As I said earlier, a significant number were killed and their bodies disposed of in canals, and some were just, thrown off. And just for the sake of perspective, so the total bodies detected in Amritsar and Patti and Tarantaran, if that was 6,000, just imagine if there were a total of 17 districts. That's just one district, Amritsar. And if there were a total of 17 districts in 1995 in Punjab, what could have been the total number of those who were cremated as unidentified? That's where this number of 25,000 comes up from. But that's not the actual number, because as I said earlier, there were a lot of other ways how these folks were eliminated. In order to bring this issue to light, Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra created this human rights wing of the Shiromani Akali Dal. It was not a part of Shiromani Akali Dal, that was just the name. Their team was not in any way or form associated with Prakash Singh Badal's Akali Dal. This was totally independent of it. And they went out, they started filing public interest litigations in courts. They lost in the Punjab and Haryana High Court, they lost in the Supreme Court, but then they just persisted, they just kept going till after Khalra ji Shaheedi, these courts relented. So who was Khalra ji? He was just like you and me, just a family man who loved his life, who loved his family, who loved his job, who loved Sikhi, visiting the Darbar Sahib, visiting, Pakistan with his family. Here he is playing with his nephews in Vienna, in Austria, his brother's children, with his own kids. Navkiran was so young then, and her brother, Janmeet Singh, just like you and me. Just like you and me. So the point I'm trying to make here is that this transformation of Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra, the amount of, I would say, an emotion he carried within him, how he was able to connect with or realize the degree, the depth of the pain and suffering of the people that he was living among, made him rise. And he really rose. So I found this picture online, and I just can't just help thinking. I'm sure he had to give this a deep thought. That जो मैं करन लग्या, जो मैं करना है, ਇਹਦਾ consequence ਕੀ ਹੋਊਗਾ? ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕੁਛ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਤੇ ਭੁਗਤਣਾ ਪੈ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਮੈਨੂੰ? ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਆਈ ਹੋਊਗੀ। ਤੇ ਜੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਵਰਗਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਡਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਸੀ, ਜਿਹਦਾ ਦਾਦਾ ਕੋਮਾਗਾਟਾ ਮਾਰੂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰਦਿੱਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਭਿੜਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਕਲਕੱਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਇਹ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਉਹ ਸੀ। ਇਹ ਦਲੇਰ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਸੀ। ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਰਗਾ ਬਨੌਟੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ। ਇਹ ਬੰਦਾ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਬੜਾ ਸਧਾਰਨ ਜਿਹਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਬੰਦਾ। So they say from a very young age he had these revolutionary tendencies. He was an Amritdhari Gursikh eventually, but here he is a part of Naujawan Bharat Sabha, Khalra Amritsar. It was a club dedicated to Bhagat Singh Shaheed, and they would do activities. He would kind of give, public, addresses. This was before he formed the the human rights wing of the Shromani Akali Dal. He formed this anti-repression forum or something, which then he would take to the streets to raise awareness of the people who were being picked up and killed as unidentified, just to make people kind of think that this can be done. We need to rise. We need to open up. We need to. He started visiting villages, collecting all the data, and then this was on January 16th. 1995. What triggered this press conference was KPS Gill, the in charge of Julum, Jabbar, as he calls him, had just spoken to the press in Amritsar saying that these people who Khalraji claims as disappeared or killed by the police or eliminated by the police are actually have immigrated to the West. They are making a living in the UK, in Europe, in North America. They are having a good time. I know where these people are. And in response to that, that's when Khalraji came up in front of the world and brought out his list, which we now call the Khalra's list. And this is something which really bothered KPS Gill, excuse me. And some people even say that this press note that they released on January 16th, 1995, was the death warrant of Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra, which he had signed himself. He knew that this is going to perhaps how it's going to end. And he brought his voice, thanks to some right-thinking people in the West. This brought him to London, other places, Canada. And sometimes we think I mean, there are some doubts amongst a small pocket of Sikhs who still feel that Khalra ji's leanings were leftists. He was a communist at heart, and that was what was triggering him. He was just a human rights crusader. That's how they prefer to label him. But I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. If you hear Sir Jaswant Singh Khalra speak to the members of parliament, Canadian members of parliament in Ottawa, he begins his address. He has a smile on his face. He is so calm. He is so comfortable. And as he begins his speech by saying, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, he says, well, as I was walking up the steps of the House of Parliament, this building, I asked my host, would I be able to carry my kirpan with me? And I was so pleased and happy when he told me, yes, you can. There is no bar on us carrying kirpans into the Canadian Parliament. And he said, I would like to thank you, I would like to congratulate you for allowing us to bring our faith with us in the Parliament House, in this building. I'm sorry to say that the country which we call our own, that's what he says, the country we call our own wouldn't allow the member of parliament elected with the widest margin, back then it was Simranjit Singh Mann, they wouldn't allow him with his kirpan, even though there is a clear mention in the Indian Constitution that the Sikh will be allowed to carry and bear his kirpan. There is no limit on its size. Yet they wouldn't allow a Sikh member of parliament into the Indian parliament. Now, when somebody says that, as an opening statement, I don't think there is any doubt in anybody's mind that he was a leftist. He was a Gursikh. He was a Gursikh in his heart. And he loved Sikhi more than anything else. And I don't think that it was just a Gursikh. I think that he knew in his, that he was in full support of Sikh sovereignty. Sikh sovereignty. You know, when I look at this photograph, which somebody took while he was sitting on the desk of the Khalistan Liberation Movement International somewhere in the UK, I think it was in London, I don't remember, somebody was telling me where they bought a house and opened this office. I'm sure he knew what it meant. I'm sure what it meant. And you know, as before I left California to join you guys here, I reached out to the family. I said, do you have anything that you would like me to share with the Sangat? And this is what Navkiran Kaur sent me. This was a note sent by Sardar Khalra to his kids who were still in Punjab, which said, Dear Navkiran and Janmeet, Sat Sri Akal, I'm quite well here and wish you will be all right. Pray God to help us unite and live together a happy life. Your father, Jaswant Singh Sandhu. His love for his family, his responsibility towards them, but at the same time, the inner calling that he had to reach out to those who had fallen because they were Sikhs and they have not been granted the dignity of a genuine cremation, real end of life rights. I have to say something for them. I totally, get it. When somebody is on those crossroads, how would they, what challenges would they had to deal with when they made this jump, And I personally think, now again, this is an opinion, the stronger one is within their connections, their roots, how deep they go into their faith, makes them choose this path, this option, or move away from it. Move away from it. And there was a question last night which was asked, how did these people overcome the moh, the mamata, the attachment? How did they overcome the pressures of this virtual world which we live in, which we exist in, which we feel is so real? While as a Sikh we know this is an illusion. I mean, it is real. These relationships are all real. We have a role to play. But what amongst these roles is the real role for me? What role am I supposed to play while I take care of my family? What is my real calling? And if I understand that Jaswant Singh Khalra, what Guruji says, our real calling is to merge with the Kalpurk. And as you see in the next few slides, the little clips of what he thought and how he so eloquently he shared his thoughts with the Sangat. This is I think at a Gurdwara in Ontario. This speech perhaps was mid a little early 1995. He was picked up, kidnapped in September, early September 95, and this speech was that you will see here next. It's a 3-minute long clip. In this clip, he starts off in such a beautiful way, sharing a little fable, a little tale about how there was so much panic in the world when the sun was about to set for the first time. And as dusk arrived, as darkness engulfed the whole world, people were worried, how are we going to survive when it becomes so dark? And then he says, in a faraway little hut, a little Deepak came up and he said, well, I don't know about the extent of this darkness, but I will not let this darkness be around me. I'll shine in around myself and not allow darkness to come here. And within a short time, other Deepaks also started raising their heads in other huts, and soon there was Prakash, there was Chandan. There was light, and people's fear of darkness vanished. Just observe how he connects with his inner self when he's making these statements. I don't think that in the world that we live in right now, we have enough patience or even a desire to hear to the speech which is 40 minutes long. And I would recommend anybody who has interest in what we have gone through as a Qawm in the last 4 decades to know this speech, if possible, some parts of it by heart. They are really convincing. They really have a strong connection to Akal Purkh. Just listen to this clip and then we'll talk more about it. Volume ucha karo, TV da.
सूरज पहली बार अस्तन लगा सी पर ज्यों-ज्यों वो अपना बंद मुका रहा सी चानन घट रहा सी चानन घट रहा सी हनेरे दी आमद दे निशान प्रगट हो रहे सी ते कहंदे लोकां च हाहाकार मच रही सी कि सूरज छिप जाऊगा, अंधेरा पसर जाऊगा, किसी को कुछ ਆਂਸੂ ਨਾ ਤੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਕੀ ਬਣੂਗਾ। ਦੁਨੀਆ ਫਿਕਰਮੰਦ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਸੂਰਜ ਅਸਤਿਆ। ਹਨੇਰੇ ਨੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਵਿਖਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੇ ਪੈਰ ਪਾਇਆ, ਪਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਦੂਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਝੌਂਪੜੀ ਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਦੀਪਕ ਨੇ ਸਿਰ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ। ਉਸਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਹਨੇਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਕਰਦਾ, ਹੋਰ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਾਗੇ ਲੱਗਣ ਦਿਆਂਗਾ। ਆਪਣੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਤਾਂ ਚਾਨਣ ਕਾਇਮ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ। ਤਾਂ ਉਸ ਦੀਪਕ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਰ ਝੁੱਗੀ ਝੌਂਪੜੀ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ ਦੀਪਕ ਉੱਠਿਆ। ਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਹੈਰਾਨ ਰਹਿ ਗਈ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਪਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਹਨੇਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਸਰ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਿਆ ਤੇ ਲੋਕ ਦੇਖ ਸਕੇ। ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਜਦੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਹਨੇਰਾ ਪੂਰੇ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੱਚ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਫਤਿਹ ਪਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਲਲਕਾਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਤਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਅਣਖੀਲਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਇੱਕ ਦੀਪਕ ਦੀ ਨਿਆਈ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਦਾ ਕਿ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਇਸ ਜੋਤ ਨੂੰ ਜਗਦੀ ਰੱਖਿਓ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਖਾਸ ਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੇਸ਼ 'ਚ ਆਇਆ, ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੇ ਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਾ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਹੈ।
ਵੱਡੇ ਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਅੱਜ ਵਿਸ਼ਾ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਵੱਡਾ ਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਸੀਗਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੋਵਰੈਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ। ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦਾ ਸੀ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਠੀਕ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ? ਠੀਕ। ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਇਆ। ਉਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਟਰਮ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਜੀ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ। ਤੇ when I first heard this speech, it was on Google videos. YouTube was not there then. Google videos ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਹ ਸਪੀਚ ਆਈ ਤੇ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਮੈਂ ਡਾਊਨਲੋਡ ਕਰ ਲਈ। ਹੁਣੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ 15 ਸਾਲ 20 ਸਾਲ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਹੋਣੀ। Like most of these pictures, none of these pictures, I mean most of these pictures are now not available online. ਲੋਕਾਂ ਕਿਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਰੱਖੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ, ਕਿਤੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ 'ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਰਚ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਫੋਟੋਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ। So when he talks about the way he talks about, it's very obvious that he's not scared of the state, and he's speaking from his heart, and how honestly he kind of places his thought with the Sangat, in front of the Sangat. So now the next clip, this is 4.5 minute long clip. I'd like you to pay attention to it. Why did he choose to do what he did? What compelled him to pick up this responsibility? Listen to it.
ਪਰ ਇੱਕ ਸਵਾਲ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਰਿਪੋਰਟਾਂ 'ਚੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਜਵਾਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਦੇ ਰਿਹਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਰਫ ਜਿਹਾ ਐਸਟੀਮੇਟ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਜ਼ਿਲ੍ਹੇ 'ਚ 2000 ਬੱਚੇ ਲਾਪਤਾ ਹੈ। ਸਰਕਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਨੇ। ਸਰਕਾਰ ਚੁੱਪ ਸੀ। ਅਸੀਂ ਫਿਰ ਕੁਝ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹਾਈ ਕੋਰਟ 'ਚ ਪਟੀਸ਼ਨਾਂ ਕਰਾਈਆਂ ਕਿ ਦੱਸੋ ਇਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਨੇ। ਤਾਂ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਹਲਫੀਆ ਬਿਆਨ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਜਦੋਂ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧੀ ਤਾਂ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਦੇ ਇੰਚਾਰਜ ਨੇ KPS ਗਿੱਲ ਨੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਵਿੰਗ ਵਾਲੇ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਮੋਟਿਵ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਫੋਕਰ ਖੜੀ ਕਰੀ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਕਿਤੇ ਅਮਨ ਨਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ISI ਦੇ ਏਜੰਟ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਡਿਸਕਰਜ ਕਰਕੇ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਮਿਲੀਟੈਂਸੀ ਉਭਾਰਨ ਲਈ ਸਾਜ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। KPS ਗਿੱਲ ਨੇ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਉਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈ। ਉਸਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਯੂਰਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਿਹਾੜੀਆਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਸੰਗਠਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਹਜ਼ਾਰਾਂ ਬੱਚੇ ਲਾਪਤਾ ਨੇ। ਇੱਕ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਸੀਗਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ, ਇੱਕ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਸੀ ਉਸ ਹਕੀਕਤ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਲਿਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਸਾਂ। ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਭਰਾਓ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਹਕੀਕਤ ਨੂੰ ਸਬੂਤਾਂ ਸਹਿਤ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਉਸ ਮੁਹਿੰਮ 'ਚ ਪਾਇਆ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਈਆਂ ਖਤਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਸਾਹਮਣਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਪਿਆ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਏ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਭਰਾ ਗਏ ਸੀ।
ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਭਰਾ ਗਏ ਸੀ ਮੀਨਸ cremation grounds 'ਚ ਗਏ ਅਸੀਂ। So what he is sharing here is the pain which a common mother, sister, waiting to be wife, parents, grandparents don't know what has happened to their loved ones. Where can we get this information that are they still alive or not? And the other predicament that they had was most of these or some of these parents wouldn't even come on record to say that our loved one is missing, because if they did, in their mind they were worried that if we did come forward and say our loved one has been picked up by the police, what if he is still alive? They're going to kill him. So we can't go public with this information. And it was a shame that someone who is responsible for peace and order in his area has the audacity to lie and say that these people who he has killed under his watch have moved out of the country. And then the fact was all of these people who were killed, ruthlessly tortured and then killed, and how their bodies were thrown into rivers and cremated as unidentified. This next clip, he continues where he went, how did he figure out the missing, the unidentified. Firewood.
पिता भरावां दा पूरा हिसाब लिखिया पिया सी। जदों असीं उत्थे जाके देखिया तां उत्थे रोजाना किन्ना बालन इशू हुंदा सी लिखिया पिया सी। उत्थे इह लिखिया पिया सी कि किन्नियां लाशां किहड़ा पुलिस अफसर दे के गया है। ते जदों असीं उस तों भी अगे गए तां उत्थे इह भी लिखिया पिया सी कि किहड़ा थाणेदार किन्नियां लाशां लै के आया। ते इस तों भी अगे कहंदे आ जदों कोई ज़्यादा ही हंकार च आ जावे जां आपां कह दिंदे आ कि उहनूं रब भुੱਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ है तो ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਕਾਰਵਾਈਆਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਕਾਰਵਾਈਆਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਹਕੀਕਤ ਨੂੰ ਨੰਗਿਆਂ ਕਰ ਦੇਣਗੀਆਂ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਦੇਸੀ ਢੰਗ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਚੋਰ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਛੱਡ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਚੋਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੰਨੇ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਛੱਡ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੈਰਾਨ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ ਕਿ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਜ਼ਿਲ੍ਹੇ ਦੇ ਤਿੰਨਾਂ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪਲ ਕਮੇਟੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਮਸ਼ਾਨ ਘਾਟਾਂ 'ਚ 6017 ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਅਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਸਨ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸਾਫ਼ ਲਿਖੀਆਂ ਸਨ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਉਮਰ 15 ਤੋਂ 35 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਦਰਮਿਆਨ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਉਹ ਭਰਾਵਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਲਿਖੀਆਂ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਬੀਬੀਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਵੀ ਨੇ। ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੈਰਾਨ ਹੋਏ ਕਿ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਵੀ ਨੇ ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਕੁਝ % ਸੀ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਮਾਤਾਵਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਵੀ ਨੇ। ਉੱਥੇ ਮਾਤਾ ਗਰਮੇਜ ਕੌਰ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਮਾਣੋਚਾ ਜੰਮਿਆ ਸੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਲਾਸ਼ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਭੀ। ਉੱਥੇ ਬੀਬੀ ਮਹਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਪਰਮਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਪੰਜਵੜ ਜੰਮਿਆ ਉਹਦੀ ਲਾਸ਼ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਭੀ। ਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਹਰਮਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੁਲਤਾਨਵਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਚਾਚੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਪਿਆਰਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਲਾਸ਼ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਭੀ।
So, as I shared with you earlier, his quest for these unidentified missing Gursikhs took him to these three different cremation grounds and then the municipal corporations to get all the records, and how the cremation officials told him that they would bring in, sometimes they would bring in 2 or 3 dead bodies, and sometimes they would bring in a full truckload of dead bodies. I mean, that was the extent how they were busy killing Sikhs in Punjab. And this is, we are talking about just the 3 cremation grounds, 3 municipal corporations in the Amritsar district. And because the wood was issued by the municipal corporation, they had to create a record of how much firewood was issued. Khalra ji was able to track the names of the police officials and the names of the people, the dead bodies, and then that's how he created his list. And he also mentions Baba Gurtej Singh Manuchal's mother, Paramjit Singh's Panjwad's mother were also picked up and killed in police custody and then cremated as unidentified. He talks about his friend Pyara Singh, Harminder Singh Sultanwind's uncle, who triggered him to go after and find out what happened to these bodies. He was able to find out, he was able to get about 6,000 names of people who were eliminated as unidentified. So, in the next clip, this is becoming more dense. Here it becomes more dense. Till now it was mostly factual information what he did. And here, I would just, you need to know this beforehand because how he describes Punjab it's beautiful. He says there are 3 Punjabs. There are 3 Punjabs. One Punjab is that which accepted the Islamic culture. All the invaders who came from the northwest, they accepted their lifestyle and kind of separated. They still call themselves Punjabi, but they chose a different path. And then there is another Punjab which starts way east and south in Delhi. And in that area, those people who followed the Sanatan ideology, because they were so weak, they were so scared, how they would give in to the trauma, the terror unleashed upon them. And then he shares a story about how those people behaved in response to this trauma, this tyranny that they had to deal with. And then he talks about the real Punjab, the Ankhila Punjab. Listen. Gifts ਦਿੱਤੇ ਨੇ ਇਨਵੇਟਰਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੱਚਿਓਂ ਅਣਖ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਜਿਉਣ ਲਈ ਤੜਪਦਾ ਹੈ. This is something that we need to stop and ponder. Where do we fit in? Where do we fit in? And how motivated we are to become belong to that part of Punjab which he says is the Ankila Punjab, is the Guru's Khalsa. And it's amply clear, you know, I don't have to repeat what he said, I just shared with you. And the story which he talks about Nadir Shah coming to Delhi and how the majority of the population, even though it was under control of the Mughals, the Delhi Darbar, a lot of Hindu kings were a part of that kingdom as well. And they were so scared to challenge Nadir Shah, despite his massacre of the residents of Delhi. It's a very interesting chapter to read, what happened in Delhi then, how he massacred thousands of people living in Delhi, indiscriminately, Nadir Shah. And how then these kings brought in their daughters and their daughter-in-laws and made them dance in front of Nadir Shah to please him, to win his goodwill, and brought gifts and diamonds and gold and gave him those gifts just so that he would spare them. And that was the Punjab that he says, you know, which comes from the east and the south, that is in the Punjab, in the Delhi region. And फिर पंजाब जिहड़ा ओह है जिहड़ा खालसा है जिहड़ा गुरु दा खालसा है जिहड़ा अणख दी जिंदगी जिउणी चाहुंदा है एक ओह वाला पंजाब है ओहदी ओह गल करदे है ते ਇਹ वाला जिहड़ा क्लिप है 2 मिनट ਦਾ है पर ਇਹ वाला जे तुसीं ਇਹਨੂੰ बाय हार्ट याद कर लो मैनूं लगदा है भी ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ जगाउंदा रहूगा he's imploring the way he says, the choice of his words, the expression of his thought, I think, in these 2 minutes is so intense. It seems almost as if like Guruji, he's doing an ardas before Guruji, and Guruji is so pleased with him, he's accepting his ardas. And see the smile on his face, you know, how intensely he is kind of falling before Guru Sahib Ji and asks us to do the same ardas. I don't know how to translate this in English. It's too deep. But to simply put it, Dr. Jaswant Singh Khalra wants to become a Shaheed. And he says that's the best gift you can ask for from the Guru. But because we are so deeply entangled in this virtual, this illusion, we kind of are scared to ask for it. But as he is saying this, it is his wish that he become a Shaheed and become one of those respected, highly respected people which he eventually did become. For us, our bodies, our lifespan seems to be the most important. But when we look around in this room at the people who chose to ask for this gift, how respected they are, how they still live in our hearts. That's the last clip. ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਤੋਂ ਕੱਲਾ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੀ ਨਾ ਸਿੱਖੀਏ, ਜੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹਦਾਇਤ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੂਰੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਸਿੱਖੀਏ। ਖਾਲਸੇ ਦੀ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ, ਇਸ ਸਮਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਦੇਣੀ ਹੈ? ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ, I'm saying this with a very heavy heart. My generation, majority of my generation has let you down. This is not what these Sikhs were supposed to be like, especially those you see in the forefront. This is not the true character of a Sikh. And today, as I end this talk, I have another clip I'm not going to show you that's about 2 minutes long. It's the clip of Khalra ji's speech in English to the members of Canadian Parliament. You can search for it online. It is right here.
To sacrifice for this country, they are branded as terrorists. This is a tragedy. That Sikhs are secular and peaceful, but we are discriminated on the basis of religion.
So, I was talking to some of the more mature Gursikhs in London, in Leicester, in Leeds, in Birmingham. And I don't know who would have the courage to come to the forefront and say that we don't need no elections in our gurdwaras. Elections were never a part of Sikh ethos. Elections were thrown at us so that we would perpetually be divided. And and I'm not talking about this Gurdwara or any Gurdwara in specific, I'm speaking in general terms, that whenever a new management comes to power in a Gurdwara, they come about and their first statement is, Sanu Sangat ne seva bakshi hai. But what they don't say when they make this claim, that there was a fairly large number of people who voted for the other side. How do you bring them into your fold? When you claim victory over your own, and you brag about it, that 50% of the Sikh Sangat, and most of these elections are decided on 100, maybe 200 bodies, and most of these votes could be just cast in confusion. And the people may not even know which side are they supposed to kind of cast their vote in favor of. So the Sangat has to rise and say no more elections in our Gurdwaras, because Gurdwara was one place which, without discriminating with anybody, was supposed to bring people on the same platform. And we are using this as a battlefield, creating factions and sub-factions and even more factions. And I think there could be no one better than the Sikh youth which comes to these Gurdwaras, and you just need 5 or 10 people to come up and voice your opinion. No, this time we are not going to have an election. You guys, and this I'm talking about my generation, you have messed up with us a lot, and we won't allow this to happen no more. Get together, get into this room. It takes you 5 hours, takes you 10 hours, come up with a consensus, and decide who's going to run the Gurdwara for the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever term limits there are. That's one way you can help fix this mess. Fix this mess. That's one crack which the Indian establishment is using. I'm not saying the management of a Gurdwara, one side or the other side, is playing in the hands of the Indian government. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying that they use these fissures amongst us to make them bigger, and we don't even like to see another Gursikh and share a fateh with them just because he happens to be the different faction. That was not what we were supposed to be. We were supposed to consolidate our power, our strength, and help this creation. We were an image of Akal Purkh, the Khalsa. Since when have we started taking sides? And that also amongst ourselves. The sooner we do this, better off we will be. The last part of this lecture is going to be very short. I visited Punjab in 2008 and I met Kuldeep Singh Bachara. He was the witness to Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra's assassination. And he describes one instance. I've shared this. It's on my Instagram handle as well from, I think, 2023, sometime in September, around that time, where he describes how Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra in late October was in a police station in Sabha, and how his officer got a phone call to bring Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra to Amritsar, to this mansion owned by Ajit Singh Sandhu, then SSP of Tarn, and he said we placed Sardar Khalra in the back seat of a Maruti car, and he barely was able to walk, and we had him sit there. We brought him, drove him to Chabal. We helped him get out of the car. We carried him almost from one, each one on each side held his arm, and we had him go and sit in a big hall with one table and a few chairs around it. And as soon as I came out of that room, I heard this big convoy of cars coming into that mansion, and out of one of those cars, KPS Gill emerged, Ajit Singh Sandhu emerged, and some other officers emerged, and they all went into that room, and I went outside to wait in my car till I got called, and we helped Sardar Khalra to come out of that room, and we brought him back to Chabal police station. And on the way back, my officer, he kind of turned back at Khalra, and he said, Khalra, je tu aj gal man janda, tu bhi saukha rehna si te assi bhi saukhe rehna si. From that, I assume, and he said he assumes, that they were offering a deal to Jaswant Singh Khalra, which Jaswant Singh Khalra refused to accept. And as a result, when they brought him back to the Chabal police station, he said they were planning to start torturing him again. And before they would do that, they would give him some hot water to sip. And they asked me to go get some hot water for Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra. While I was in the kitchen area where there's a gas and I was warming up the water, I heard 2 gunshots. And I was asked to come out, and I came out, and I saw Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra slumped over. There were 3 cars there. Sardar Khalra was so badly tortured, he was not able to stand up on his own, let alone walk. He was just sitting on the ground, on the dirt, when they shot him. And then they picked his dead body and put him in the trunk of a car, and we drove off in 3 different cars. And he names all these people who were in these different vehicles to Harike Patan, where this canal takes water from Harike to Rajasthan. And he said we dumped his body in that canal. And when we came back, we stopped at a police station. Ajit Singh Sandhu was there, other officers were there, and they gave us 3 bottles of bagpiper whiskey, and we had a lot of fun, and we shot bullets in the air, and just to celebrate. And that's how Sardar Khalra met his end, and the one who left home to search for the unidentified missing Sikhs, he joined their ranks as well. मैं इन्नी की गल करनी है, 8:45 हो गए, बहुत टाइम थोड़ा मैं लिया है, तुसी बहुत ध्यान नाल प्यार नाल सारी ये गल सुनी है, तो मैं आस करदा जे तुसी होर कोई भी गल जे अज नहीं सुनी, one thing which you want to take home, I would suggest 2 things that you want to take home is, number 1, that what Sardar Khalra ji is imploring us, how should we connect with the Guru? ਆਪਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਅਸੀਂ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਡਰਦੇ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਸ ਮੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਹੋਰ ਮੰਗਾਂ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੈ, ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਿਰ ਦੇਣਾ, ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਇਰ ਰੱਖਣੀ, ਆਪਾਂ ਵਿਸ਼ ਕਰਨਾ, ਉਸ ਵਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਰੇ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇ ਹੋਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨੀਡਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਫੁੱਲਫਿਲ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਮਤਲਬ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਸਰੈਂਡਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ, ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਮੈਂ ਮਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਮੈਂ, ਤੇ ਜੇ ਸੱਚੀ ਮੁੱਚੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਹੋ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਚੰਗੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਊਗੀ। ਜੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਮੰਨ ਲੈਣਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਟੀਰੀਅਲ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਮੰਗੀਏ, ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਿਲਾਪ ਮੰਗੀਏ ਕਿ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਰਜ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਰਜ ਹੋ ਜਾਈਏ। ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ ਡਿਮਾਂਡ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਰਿਕੁਐਸਟ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਅਰਦਾਸ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਤੇ ਦੂਜੀ ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ you should muster enough courage. If you have this prem to come so late on Sunday evening and listen to the Sakhi of Sardar Jaswant Singh Khalra, I'm sure you have enough courage and enough intelligence and enough of this wisdom that what's happening in our Gurdwaras in the name of election and running the Gurdwara Prabandh, it has to stop, it has to change. Enough is enough. We need to have enough courage to say that. Do something to do that. I know you are scared. What could happen at the most? Think about it. Sit down together and discuss this. Let this become a common thought across the country. I would say across the world. And these Prabandhaks have no courage. ਡਰਪੋਕ ਨੇ ਸਿਰੇ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਦੇ ਮੂੰਹ 'ਤੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜੇ ਭੱਜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਕਰੇਜ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਊਂਟਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਝੂਠ ਹੁਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਲਣਾ। मेरी ये बेनती है, ये दो गल्लां तुसीं अपने नाल लैके जाओ। मैनूं पता है मैं बहुत गुरुद्वारियां में जाके बोलदा, तो जदों मैं उत्थों बोल के हटदा, मैनूं माफ़ करिओ, सारे तुसीं मेरे प्यार वाले बैठे हो, मैनूं उस गुरुद्वारे दे विच दोबारा बोलण नहीं दिता जाता। मैनूं वो कहंदे आ थैंक यू, अगे तो तैनूं इत्थे आउण नहीं देना असीं, विच इज़ फाइन। मैं अपनी जमीर नूं जवाब देना, मैं किसी प्रबंधक के थल्ले लग के नहीं बोलना।